Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. So our topic for today is discovering the leader in the mirror. Discovering the leader in the mirror. I'm somebody who, so as Matume said, I've written a few books. So I'm always conscious of how something is titled, whether it's a book, whether it's a topic, whether it's a presentation. So when I look at this topic, discovering, thank you, sir, thank you, my leader. So when I look at this topic, discovering the leader in the mirror, the first word that I'm very conscious of is the word discovering. Discovering. When you discover something, you don't have to invent it. So if I didn't know what this mask is here, no? And I'm just walking by and I see it and I pick it up, did I have to go into a factory and create this mask? I simply had to discover it. So with your own leadership capacity, you don't have to create it or invent it. You simply have to discover it. And that's good news for everybody, because around within each and every one of us, there's a leader residing deep within, and all we have to do is discover it. Next slide, please. It's similar to when a mining company, let's say Anglo, né? When Anglo goes to the northwest or Limpopo, and they find ordinary gold, they have to put in any gold in the ground. They simply do the assessments and then they start excavating. And what they do is they bring what was underground to the fore. So it's the same with each and every one of us. There's something within that we simply have to go in and bring what is already there to the fore. But what's interesting about mining is that what they bring to the fore is in an unrefined state. Am I correct? You've got gold ore, and then you've got gold. You can see the gold bar there. Gold ore and the gold bar, the final product, are exactly the same thing. It's just that one has been refined, the other has not been. And it's interesting that if you go to the market, utsuri gold ore versus utsuri the refined gold, which one are they going to pay you more for? The refined. But they're exactly the same thing. It's just that this one has gone through a process where it has become the best version of itself. So with your own leadership capacity, yes, Raibona is there, you can bring it to the fore, but you have to refine it. So that when you go to the market, they can say, no, this is a top quality leader, we are willing to pay top dollar for this. Are we together? So this is what being in MMI is also about. It's about refining your potential to the point where when you go to the marketplace, but no, this we want to pay top dollar for. I want to share a quick story. I remember many years back, I think I was about 21 years old. I just started my first job, and I was staying in Randburg, CBD. Who knows the Randburg CBD? There's a building just opposite the taxi rank. Who knows that building? It's quite run down. It's quite run down. So I stayed there and I was earning maybe, I don't remember, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 entry level, And there was always more month than money. That we love it in the middle of the month, and the month is alona, but the money has run out. So I was always in that dilemma, patala rent, transport. And then I'm walking on the street. And there was this street vendors. And I'm walking one day, and I hear one of them say, full chicken, 2 rand. Full chicken, 2 rand. I immediately stopped. I started doing mathematics. I calculated, full chicken, 2 rand. All my woes have been taken care of. For the month. As I turn around, I look to see, and the man is selling boiled eggs. Full chicken, 2 rand. And I thought, wow, this is a clever marketer, But I started thinking a bit deeper about it, and I realized the reason that the full chicken is only valued at 2 rand is because it didn't develop to the point where it was a full chicken. And that's how the market works. Because you may be a full chicken. When we say full chicken, but calling the egg a full chicken, we're only calling it by its potential, what it could become. But because it never developed to the level where it was a full chicken, we only value it at 2 rand. That's how the market works. You may come into the office space and they say, no, but we see your potential. But as long as you do not develop and grow to the level of your potential, you will never be valued at the level of your potential. So, but no, when you've got potential to be a marketing director, when you've got the potential to be an MD in this company. But until you go through the process of from an egg to a full chicken, you'll never be valued at 200 rand. Full chicken, I go Woolworths. I gotta get the prime, I go Woolworths. Maybe 150 or whatever. So you've got the potential to be valued at 150, but because you never developed, you got 2 rand. So in order for us to extrapolate our true value, we need to go through this developmental phase. So what do you see in the mirror? I get the topic is discovering the leader in the mirror. What we're looking at is a cat looking into the mirror, but it's not seeing a cat, it's seeing a lion. It's seeing what it could become. So that's where we are right now. We are cats looking into the mirror, but what are we seeing in the mirror? There's a quote I love, it says, if you see yourself as what you can become what you see. Because that cat could easily look in the mirror and see a mouse. Am I correct? Sure. And some people look in the mirror, they either see a lion, and what you see is what you will become. So that cat that looks in the mirror and sees a lion, it will start behaving like a lion. It's going to be bold. It's going to be courageous. It's going to go out there and hunt. That's what lions do. They hunt. They are not docile. They are not passive. They are not sitting in a corner somewhere hoping things will happen. They say, no, I'm hungry enough. I'm strong enough. I'm blessed enough. I'm going to go out there and get what's mine. But if it looks in the mirror and sees a mouse, what do mice do? They run. At the smallest sound, the mouse runs. So if you look in the mirror and you see yourself as a mouse, as somebody who doesn't have much value to add, somebody who doesn't have strength, somebody who's not talented, who's not gifted enough, you're going to be the one that's always running. Opportunities come and you run because you don't believe you're the one capacitated enough to handle that opportunity. A promotion is coming up and you've got the opportunity to ascend in the company, or maybe you've got the opportunity to start your own business, but because you see yourself as a mouse, that little sound of the opportunity, you are running. Conversely, what does the lion do? When the lion hears a sound, it says, is that food? It looks, oh, there's a buffalo. It's lunchtime. So it's important to assess, what do you see when you look in the mirror? Do you see a winner? Do you see a champion? Do you see a leader, or do you see a defeated person, a weakling? And what you see in yourself is linked to what you believe about yourself. And what you believe about yourself determines how you behave, and how you behave determines your results. So because the lion sees itself in a particular way, it says, I'm strong, I'm able, I'm confident, I've got capacity, it sees itself in that manner. When it sees the antelope, it's going to run. And what it's going to do is going to catch it and it's going to be fed. You see, it started with how it sees itself, how it sees the opportunities. That determines how it behaves, and how it behaves determines its results. So do you see your results are not a mere coincidence, it's not happenstance. It starts at a very deep place. The people who produce the best results are people who see themselves in the correct way. That's where it starts. When you saw yourself, say, as somebody who can go into business, who can go into leadership, and the way that you saw yourself said, but in order for me to produce the end result, I must go and register go MMI. Now, because you saw yourself in a particular way, it affected your behavior. Now you're here, and your behavior, the assignments, the taking notes, listening to the teachings, being involved, being absorbed, will determine greater results for you, which others may not get. Are we together? So what do you see in the mirror? Do you see the lion or do you see the mouse? And what you see ultimately determines your behavior, and your behavior ultimately determines your results. There's something I call the dirty mirror effect. The dirty mirror effect. Sometimes what we see in the mirror is impacted by the condition of our mirror. So somebody is looking into the mirror and the mirror is dirty. But what they see is not themselves reflected properly. They see the dirt and they equate themselves to the dirt they see on the mirror. Are you understanding? And what are the things that have dirtied our mirrors? For some, it's negative life experiences. There's a lady that, an author, very prolific author, very prolific speaker, but she was raped at a young age. And because of that life experiences, for many years, she didn't even want a mirror in her house because she didn't like what she saw in the mirror. Her mirror had been dirtied by that experience to a point where when she was looking in the mirror, all she could see was the dirt. And she equated the dirt to who she was. So some of us have gone through some negative experiences. For somebody, it may not be sexual abuse. For somebody, it's simply something your parents said to you or how your parents treated you. Maybe they compared you to your older siblings. Maybe it was a teacher who said, you are bad at this, you are bad at that, you'll never amount to anything. And we took all that dirt and we carried it within us. And it dirtied our mirrors. And so now when we look in the mirror, all we see is the dirt. We are not able to see ourselves properly. That's the dirty mirror effect. Some of us is negative labels. Somebody, maybe you went through a phase where you were not in the Lord and you were living life in a particular way, and that attached a label to you. Other derogatory words that I might not want to mention. But that's a label that was put on you, and now you're walking around with that label. Moran, what's the label of your jacket then? K? K-Way. So what are K-Way? And you know that a label is merely taken from somewhere and put. Even if I took off that label, the jacket would still be as warm as it is right now. So the label doesn't make the jacket. And the label that was put on you doesn't have to make you. Are we together? So one of the things we have to let go of is the negative labels. So we've discussed the dirty mirror effect. Now, let's discuss cleaning the mirror. I agree if your mirror is dirty, in order to see yourself properly, you have to clean it. So how do we clean the mirror? Number one, reevaluate what you listen to. I gotta go, we're in a Christian organization. So what does the Word of God say? Faith comes by hearing. And a lot of the things that have affected our self-esteem and how we see ourselves is what we've heard over the years. Or when now Bari, when you won't amount to anything, when you are less than. Because the principle works in either direction. The fact that you believe or you won't amount to anything is as a result of what you were told. So in order to change that programming, we have to start reevaluating what we listen to. Instead of visiting that person who you know, you were at a positive 8 out of 10, but by the time you leave, you're at a 2 out of 10. Because of what they've been saying. They've been gossiping, they've been reminding you of your mistakes, they've been telling you all these kind of things. You have to start reevaluating. Am I going to listen to that person? Again, on YouTube, what am I going to listen to? Am I going to listen to that music that's full of vulgar language, that's full of demeaning things? Or am I going to search Les Brown, T.D. Jakes, Miles Monroe, and start reprogramming? Because faith comes by hearing. So start evaluating what you listen to, what you expose yourself to, and who you associate with. I remember when I came to Johannesburg, I stayed in an RDP house with my uncle and one of my nieces. And I used to sleep in the kitchen floor. Go Bramfisher. Who knows Bramfisher? Go saw it. Yeah. So I stayed go Bramfisher. And I go college in Randburg. And my surroundings were not positive. You know what I mean? And then tomorrow you hear somebody was shot a few houses away from me. But what I used to do, on Fridays, I used to go to Center. And I used to go to the dealerships. And I used to go to the stores. Because I needed to expose myself to something different. To say, okay, this is where I am in my life right now, but there is better for me out there. And through me exposing myself to those things, it started opening up gateways in my mind, or no, but you can work yourself out of this particular situation. Because that also builds your faith. So be careful what you expose yourself to. And be intentional about what you expose yourself to. Because what you expose yourself to becomes possibility for you. And then reassess your self-worth. This goes back to the dirty mirror effect that I spoke back to. And then realign your self-beliefs, cleaning your mirror. And then reestablish your values and purpose. Start speaking to yourself, okay, I know I went through A, B, and C, but I am at a point where I'm realigning myself. I'm interacting with the right people, interacting with the right material. Now I'm uncovering my true value, my true purpose, and I'm going to start working in it. Okay. Next slide, please. A clean mirror tells the truth. So once we have that clean mirror, now there are no more excuses. Like if the mirror is dirty, you can look in the mirror and say, no, but the mirror is dirty, I'm not seeing myself correctly. But once the mirror is clean, there are no more excuses. Then you have to start facing yourself. You have to start saying, okay, maybe I do procrastinate. There's an assignment that I got that I should have been busy with in the last 2 weeks. But 2 weeks have gone by and I haven't even started on it. Maybe I do procrastinate. A clean mirror tells the truth. So now you have to start looking at what areas do I need to look at and improve. What habits do I have that are not serving me and my purpose? Who are the people that I'm spending too much time with who are not adding equal value to my life? It's the blessing of the clean mirror. No more excuses. And leadership ultimately begins with leading yourself, not others. And this is what this whole exercise is about. And it's amazing about leadership. What you have done for yourself, you can do for others. Once you have gone through the process of that self-evaluation, and now you're walking in self-determination, or this is who I want to become, this is what I'm doing about it, and these are the results I'm producing. The very same process you've gone through, the people that you begin leading on your team, in your environment, in your family, because you've gone through the process, now you can begin taking them through the same process. And you've got a solid case now. It's a case study. Are you with me? Next slide. So now let's look at self-developmental areas for leaders. Number one is self-motivation so that you can withstand challenges. I always make this example of a man who's hungry, and they go to the neighbor asking for food. Do you know that by going to the neighbors and asking for food, you've put yourself at the mercy of that neighbor? That neighbor may decide to give you poison food. But if you have your own garden in your own background, in your own garden, and there's some vegetables that you're growing, you know that you don't have to go to the neighbor. You can simply go to the back and excavate those vegetables. That's self-motivation. So ask yourself, what is in your back garden? What have you been sowing over the years? Because the things that you have been sowing, have you been sowing the right relationships? Have you been depositing the right content within yourself? Because fruit doesn't happen by simple happenstance or osmosis. You have to take an active step to sow it so that it produces. And the funny thing about fruit, on the day that you are hungry, it's not the day that you are supposed to plant. The planting has to start way back before you need the food. So it's about, what am I planting now? What am I sowing now in my mind? What kind of content? So that when I face discouragement, am I going to have something from my garden to pull? Or am I going to be running around asking for food? So number one is self-motivation so you can withstand challenges. Number two, self-discipline so you can develop consistency. I think I spoke about this the last time. But whenever you go to the gym, you find these people who, you ask yourself, what are you doing here? Well, now you are done with the gym. Because they've got muscles on muscles. They have muscles in places that you didn't know. Physiology, I didn't know there was a muscle in that area. What's only 8 muscles? So it's all one muscle, and only 8. But that is as a result of self-discipline. And as a leader, if you lack self-discipline, you are not going to succeed. It's at the core of achieving anything in life, self-discipline. And it helps you to develop consistency. And what consistency does, it will be reliable. People will start trusting you. You become that go-to person. Or no, if I go to Mpo, I know will deliver. Why? Because they've got a track record of delivery. Remove a task last week, she delivered. Remove a task 2 weeks back, she delivered. Self-discipline, consistency. Consistency results in trust. You are credit worthy. That's why, this term here about credit worthy, it's amazing because it's also measured by your consistency. How consistently do you pay your debit orders? If you pay them consistently, but at the end of it, no, this person is credit worthy. It's the same in life. The level of your consistency determines how much people trust you. So again, self-discipline so you can develop consistency. Number 3, self-confidence so you can become a builder. One of the most dangerous phenomenons in the world is leaders who have no self-confidence. Because that leader will never develop any other leader. When they see leaders rising, because they lack self-confidence, they are going to crush them, oppress them. Some of you may have gone through that in your companies. There's a leader who don't quite believe in themselves, they've got this low self-esteem issue, and as they see you rise, they want to suppress you. But a leader who is self-confident, when they see somebody rising, they don't go over them and try to suppress them, they go under them and they lift them even higher. If the potential of those you lead threatens you, then you become a threat to their potential. If the potential of those you lead threatens you, then you quickly become a threat to their potential. That's why it's essential for leaders to have self-confidence. Because as one writer said, I think it was Ralph Nader, he said, the purpose of leadership is to create more leaders, not more followers. But the leader who has a low self-esteem, who is not self-confident, all they want is followers. All they want is, yes, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, people. People who never challenge them, people who never challenge their ideas, who never challenge their opinions. And that kind of leadership will always be below par. Because everybody has something to contribute that can take us to where we are going faster in a more efficient way. But if you're always suppressing people, then those ideas will not be contributed because they know you're not going to listen, you're going to push them down. And when you do that consistently, then people no longer come to you with ideas. When you say something and everybody knows this is not their direction, but they all keep quiet, and the car ends up crashing because you're suppressing those you are meant to be uplifting. So what is leadership? Number one, leadership is not a privilege that should be enjoyed by the few. It is a responsibility that should be carried by all. One of our faults as people, as citizens, as people in the marketplace, is that we are always looking to the leader to come up with the solutions. And so we have this perception of leadership, that leadership is a privilege that is enjoyed by a few people at the top. When in fact, all of us have something to contribute. Somebody is in the media space. There's something that you need to do within that space that can contribute to the ultimate success of everybody. There's something that, Morena, you're good at that I'm not good at. It's like what we are taught in the Bible, or the body has many members. Oftentimes when you look at leadership, we only think of the head. Or no, the head is the brain, it has to do this, it has to come up with strategy. But even if you are an arm, the head may be there, but if there is no arm, the head will not be able to achieve anything. So we have to look for our particular role in the body and say, okay, now my talent is in 1, 2, and 3. This is what I can contribute. And by contributing that, you are saving your leadership sphere. You are saving the function that you're meant to be serving. You don't need to be the head. There's a quote I love. It says, it's better to be a good lieutenant than a bad general. But many times all of us want to be the general. And you can end up becoming the general, but then you end up killing everybody on the army. Because that's not the position that you are equipped for. You may be equipped to be a great lieutenant who does that function with absolute excellence. And it's better to be that good lieutenant than fight to be a bad general. So we said, number one, leadership is not a privilege that should be enjoyed by a few. It is a responsibility that should be carried by all. Number two, leadership is not a service you demand, it is a service you provide. Another big mistake of leadership. We sit in the towers and we expect everybody to be coming at us and saving us. But the greatest among you will be the servant. This is a biblical principle. I can read the greatest among you are leadership. That speaks of leadership. But it doesn't say the greatest among you will be the one who is served. The greatest among you will be the one who. So leadership is not a service you demand, it is a service you provide. Leadership is not a physical position, it is a psychological positioning. There's an African proverb that says, a big chair does not make a king. A big chair does not make a king. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier. So many people want the big chair, they want the big position, because they believe that is what gives them authority. But the truth is, any chair that a king sits on becomes a throne. Any chair that a king sits on becomes a throne. Any position that you have in the company becomes a leadership position, even if you are a junior. Why does it become a throne? Because of the service that you are delivering and the leadership excellence that you are delivering. It's not about the chair, it's about the function. And many times we are chasing the chair when we should be chasing the function. Because when you chase the function, the chair will start chasing you. When you chase the function, or if there's a gap in this market, I'm the one who's going to fill this gap. I'm going to proactively come up with ideas on how to take the company's bottom line to the next level. I'm going to take this business that I've started and I'm going to work so hard on it. I'm going to connect with the right people and take it to the top. That function will start attracting the chair, will start attracting the positions. It works in reverse. If you are chasing the position will run. Because all your focus is on the position, not on the function. But once you start functioning in the office of that particular chair, the chair will run. Now, we've seen what you're doing. We want to promote you to general manager. We've seen how you run your business. We want you on this board of directors. Go sit. We want you on the presidential advisory board on entrepreneurship. You didn't have to chase that position. By you fulfilling your function, the position started chasing you. So it's not a physical position, it's a psychological positioning. And leadership is not a quick 100-meter race, it is a lifelong marathon. Only the test that we gave earlier, or the race is not for the swift. Because leadership is not about running quickly. It's a long life journey. It must become entrenched in who you are. You know, one of the most interesting things is when you have let's say a father. I got to give Father's Month as well. Let's say you have a father, this man, and when he comes into the office, everybody's happy. No, Temba is here. Everybody's going to be jolly. Things are going to be nice. But the same Temba, when he arrives at home, the wife says, oh no, Temba is here. The kids start running to the bedroom. They're treating leadership like it's a jacket. Vaya para, vaya go fishing. After 5 o'clock, they take it off. They're treating like it's a 100-meter race, but it's supposed to be entrenched in who you are and how you behave. If I meet you at 1 in the morning or I meet you 1 in the afternoon, I'm supposed to meet the same person. It's not a coat or a hat that you put on. It's part and parcel of who you are. And you know, it's not always easy. You know, I like the Olympics. You know, one of my favorite things to watch Olympics is the 100-meter race, especially when Usain Bolt was there. And you sit there, 10 seconds is done. But who's ever tried watching the Comrades Marathon? It's like at 6 a.m. The whole day, 15 hours. You feel like at 9 when Nambamsela at 10. So it's easier a lot of times to try and operate leadership like it's a 100-meter race. It's easier. but it's not as rewarding. And sooner or later, but lo expose. But lo bicha go zondo. So leadership is not a quick 100-meter race, it is a lifelong marathon. Next slide, please. Okay, the struggles of leadership. With like anything of value, there are struggles there. Number one is the internal struggles, which we spoke about. So this speak of how you see yourself, your self-value. Do you see yourself as somebody who can ascend to that position? Do you see yourself as somebody who can fulfill that particular function? So those are the internal struggles which we've spoken about. But then there are external struggles. External struggles speak to your team, the environment out there. And all of these struggles have a purpose to them. What is the purpose of struggles? There is an article I read some time back. And this article was about something called the biodome. So the biodome was an environment they built, I think it was in Arizona, US. Ne? So they built, imagine this is the biodome. They built this perfect environment, it's a casing, and in the biodome, they only entered purified water. And the air was extra purified, so they wanted to create a utopia, like an Eden of sorts. And they started planting trees in the biodome. But what they realized is that whenever the trees reached a particular height, maybe 1.5 meters, they would just fall. And they didn't understand why. And they started studying why are these trees at this particular height keep falling. And they realized that the reason was because in the biodome there was no wind. So what wind does for trees, as the tree is coming up, as the wind beats against the tree, it strengthens the roots. So as it grows, the roots are also growing stronger. But if there's no wind, the roots will never be strong enough. And at a particular point when it comes to that height, they simply fall. That is the purpose of struggles in your life. It is like that wind that is beating against you. But what is it doing? It's strengthening your roots. You hear of people who, they live this nice life all their life, and then they get to a point, they meet this challenge, and the first thing they think of is suicide. And sometimes it's because they've been sheltered all their lives. They haven't had to meet any kind of struggle. They've been sheltered. They've been, no, mama's baby. No. So the roots are not as strong as somebody who has gone through some stuff. And so they meet this challenge. It comes like a wind, and it simply topples them. But somebody who has strengthened their roots, they meet the same challenge, and they're able to stand. And in leadership, it doesn't get easier the higher you go. The challenges become more. The salary they pay you for solving. There's a level of problems that you solve that equals the level of payment you get. That 5 million per year is not just on Omofa. There's a level of problems that you are solving there. But if you haven't been through the process, and you're not able to solve that level of problems. So the problems and the struggles you are facing now, they are simply preparing you for greater levels of issues to deal with. They are simply strengthening your leadership capacity. Are we together? Next slide, please. So what do we need to do about the loads? We need to offload. Number one, offload spiritually. I think if you're here at MMI, I'm guessing that you've got a relationship with God. So number one, offload spiritually. You need a spiritual anchor, a place to run to. Jesus said, come to me, all you are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So you need a spiritual place of rest. Number two, offload relationally. Who are the people in your life that you can go to and say, look, I'm facing X, Y, and Z. Can you help me? Or can you simply listen to me? But you have to make sure Moto ase Sowetan, I got. So they don't go around publishing your indaba zakho. And then number 3, which is one of my favorite, offload through journaling and writing. Because I'm a writer, you know, and I find writing very therapeutic. And it's something that, even if you don't consider yourself a writer, it's something that you can sit and start journaling. There's a therapeutic thing that happens when you take your internal loads and you put them on paper. Somehow there's a magic there that happens. And I was listening to Tyler Perry, né? So Tyler Perry went through a lot of stuff growing up, and he said one of the things that helped him was he listened to the Oprah show on one day, and there was somebody who was speaking about this, and he started writing. And all that writing ended up becoming media and all the different movies. So you can become a billionaire by doing this. There are things that you've gone through that other people have also gone through, and by you sharing them, they'll say, you know what, I went through that. How did you overcome? I want your material. It can become a script. It can become a short story, a film, etc. You know what I mean? So offload through writing and journaling. And then offload through setting boundaries. One of the reasons we become so overladen is because we have not set any boundaries. Where not anybody at any time can access you. There are no boundaries on your time. There are no boundaries from 6 a.m. from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. family time. Even if the president wanted to get hold of me, they would phone a fro. So you need to set those types of boundaries. Otherwise, you will be bombarded. Family members, friends, colleagues, emails, and then you wonder why you're so overladen, why you're so stressed and so anxious. So offload through setting boundaries. Number 5, which is one of my favorites, is offload through changing your perspective about the load. What do I mean by that? So let's say this is a load, né? This is a heavy load, and I'm carrying it. The way that I carry this load impacts how the load impacts me. I'll explain. So if I'm carrying it like this, I'm not getting any value. It's simply draining me. But if I change my perspective about the load, I switch it like that and I start doing this. Now it's benefiting me. Same load. But now, because I've changed my perspective, I'm getting stronger through the load. So one of the best things to do is to change your perspective about the load. The fact that in your company, everybody runs to you for solutions. You can see it as a load, or these people are a burden to me. Or you can say, but wait, if I start thinking deeply about these problems, I can come up with solutions, and then it makes me a better leader. Same load, same set of problems, but because I've changed how I view them, now they're adding value to me. Are we together? So one of the best things, one of the best advice I can give you is change your perspective about the load. Because the same load that's weighing you down today, if you change your perspective, it can become an asset to you tomorrow and make you a stronger, better leader who tomorrow will be trusted with responsibility on a level that you never even imagined. So that's number 5, offload through changing your perspective. Next slide. Ultimately, we need to turn our mirrors into windows. We started in the mirror. And the mirror is about me, self. How can I improve myself? What are the things that I need to change about myself to go to the next level? But if, as a leader, all you ever do is look in the mirror, then you'll never be a true leader. Because leaders are able to change their mirrors into windows. We start in the mirror, but we mustn't get stuck in the mirror. We start in the mirror, but we mustn't get stuck in the mirror. Leaders who get stuck in the mirror become egomaniacs. Everything is about them. What am I getting out of this? What What's in it for me? How much money can I get from this company? So it's okay to start in the mirror because you can't give what you don't have. It's okay to start in the mirror, but just don't get stuck in the mirror. What do windows do? Windows widen our perspective. So let's make an example with this window. Ne? If I had a mirror here, all that I would be able to see is me. But when I look outside the window, the perspective is much wider. So as a leader, you start in the mirror, but as you widen your perspective, you move away the mirror and you start seeing the people. Or what can I do for them? What value can I add to them? What talents and gifts do I have that can benefit them? And that's where true leadership begins. Because we say leadership is about a service you provide, not a service you demand. And then windows also bring in light. If we were to dim all these lights and close the blinds, it will become very dark in here. But the fact that we've opened the windows, opened the blinds, there's light coming in. What does light speak of? Light speaks of fresh ideas, fresh perspectives. And as a leader, you need to be able to open the windows to let the other people's light shine in. What are other people's ideas? What are other people's opinions? You know, the most effective leaders are leaders who surround themselves with people who are smarter than them. They seek out people, they intentionally seek out people who are smarter than them in a particular area. Or now I'm not good in this thing, but we know you are excellent in it. I want you on my team. What are they doing? They are bringing in light. They actively seek out people who are smarter than them. But leaders who are stuck in the mirror, they want to be the main man. They want to come up with all the solutions, and they end up failing. Windows bring in fresh air, touched on that. It's about the ideas, the perspectives. And ultimately, windows give our leadership purpose. Windows give our leadership purpose. If it's all about me and nothing about the community, nothing about the organization, nothing about the family, then there's no purpose to my leadership. Then all I've done is self-improvement, self. Me. And if me never becomes we, then we are not truly leaders. Because leadership is about impacting other people. So ultimately, windows give our leadership purpose. Next slide. We've come to the end. Thank you so much. I hope you've garnered some value out of this. If there's any questions, I think we do have a bit of time. We can tackle them. Any questions from the crowd? Thank you. Any questions? Okay, you know, whenever there is no question, oh, there is a question. Okay. I was about to say, whenever there is no question, it either means you did a very good job or a very bad job. So I never quite know. But there's a question. Yes, sir.
Good day, everyone. I think my question would really be that if you are in an environment whereby you doing your best to be a good leader, but then the environment, the environment does not allow you to, then how do you go about it? For example, you know that if a customer has paid for something, it's customer property, you can't just give it away, those kind of things, and you find yourself in a situation whereby there's not much you can do,
Okay, give that example. So if a customer has...
A customer has paid for their property, you sort of running late with your production, and you have to swap things around, and it's not ethical, it's not right to do such things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the environment is not conducive.
Yes. And getting jobs, for example, it has become a culture whereby if you have to get work, you have to put something under the table, and
Mm.
so those are real challenges that we are faced with, and I think we need to be very open and honest about these things.
Yeah, 100%. So if it's a culture issue, culture is one of the most difficult things to change. But you can never change culture by assimilating to the culture. It's like what does the word of God say? Say we are the light and the salt. Ne? When salt enters a dish, all that salt is supposed to do is affect the environment. So whenever you are supposed to, the reason you are there is you are supposed to affect the culture. The danger is when you start assimilating to the culture. Because now the river is going there, where now you decide to go with the river, to start putting those envelopes, to start cutting those corners. But until somebody comes, and one of the reasons that culture doesn't change is that everybody who comes in simply assimilates. But if you get enough people, and you as a leader, remember leadership is about influence, which is what the salt does. It influences the rest of the food. So I know you have to come into that culture and start saying, using your leadership influence and say, but guys, we need to start the way that we do things here. I guess that's what culture is, how we do things around here. So you have to be the one, you have to be the change agent that says, this is the culture, this is the stream, but now I'm going to influence the people that are closest to me to say, we are not going to keep doing things the way that they've been done. And that's the challenge of leadership, becoming a change agent. The danger is when you assimilate, because then you are just a follower, you're not a leader. Remember, leaders come into organizations to change culture so that it's positive. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you. Another question, comment? Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not a question for myself. Good morning, everyone. It's just a comment to say thank you. You really speak with confidence.
It's the first time I hear that joke, by the way.
I'm sure that has to do with name that, but thank you very much. To me, you actually distressed me. You made my view even more wider. How you, even when you touch on all these different problems or all these different sayings that you are saying, they are really so perfect to what you're talking about, and it helps me as an individual. And actually, when you look at when you paint at the picture of a leader, of leadership itself, so how you portray it, man, it really is refreshing. And
Thank you, sir.
when you connect the mirror to turning it to a window, to me, where you start is you start it in a seclusive space where you see yourself, see this human being, which is you. And from there, when you widen it, if you look outside now, or when we are here now, I don't see myself.
Yeah.
I can only see you. So if I've started from the mirror, seeing myself, then the person I see in front of me, it's easier as a leader to say, this is me, and this is a human being I can actually tend to, or I can actually groom. It
Yeah.
becomes easier to mingle or to live with people or to help people out. Other than that, you don't start from the mirror. The person you see, you might think is an animal, or you might think the one I know takes something from you, and you end up being selfish, as
Yeah.
we see many of some of our leaders end up failing. So thank you very much for that fresh perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Much appreciated. All right. I think, any more questions? Oh, there's a lady in front. Okay. You're on stage.
Thank you so much. I've actually been struggling with procrastination.
Okay.
There are times where I have a sense of urgency for things that need to be done, but there are those times where you really I procrastinate, and it feels as if like I'm getting an edge on the pressure because of procrastination, and it seems like I'm actually drawn to that, even though I know that procrastinating and leaving of that procrastination. What perspective would you say I should debunk or and adopt to actually then value the essence of doing things on time and moving away from that habit
It's,
trait?
no, it's something that I've also had challenges with. Ne? But what I realize is that, you know, that adrenaline rush, it's exciting. There's an excitement that comes to it, and there's such a feeling of relief when you've done it on time. Ne? But what I realized is that you could be doing so much more. So think of how much are you robbing yourself of things that you could have. The fact that you got that particular assignment done on time, ne? But you had 30 days to do it, you did it in the last 5 days. But what else could you have achieved in the 25 days? So don't get addicted to the adrenaline rush of last minute, yes, I got it done. Think of how much potential and time you've wasted. Because the 25 days of procrastination means that your output could have been 5 times what you produced in the end. Are you getting me? Because what you produced in 5 days, you had 30 days to do it. If you do it in the first 5 days, now it means whatever the output was, you can replicate it 5 times more. So now you're producing it 5 out of 10, you could actually be producing it 10 out of 10. So don't get addicted to that rush. Think of how much more you can produce. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah,
Thank you. Any more questions?
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
I heard you talking about negative labels. I wanted to ask, like, let's say from our background we come from, it can be our families or from your past, maybe sometimes you try to do something and you failed. And by the time maybe you want to try another project or you want to try something, and they will be like, you know what, this one, she'll never amount to anything. She's not going to do anything. This one, we know it. She failed in the past, so like, whatever she's trying to do now, she's not going to work. So I wanted to find out how to overcome that. Let's say maybe you want to try a project, maybe you might say, I want to build a city, I want to build this, and they are all sitting waiting for you to fail. And maybe as you are doing the project and you are facing those struggles, and people are waiting for you to fail because they'll be like, this one will never amount to anything, and you are trying, and you are feeling the heat, but you are thinking like, if I quit, what are those people going to say? So how to overcome that? Because I've come to realize that, from those negative labels, sometimes what they say is like, it's like they are projecting it into life, and the moment you take a step, those things is like they are happening. Whatever they are saying, the negatives, it's like that's what you are facing is in your path of destiny. So how to overcome that? Like whatever they are saying is not going to affect me. I'm moving forward, facing my journey and all.
Lovely question. There's two, I want to answer it in twofold. Ne? The first one is change your perspective about failure. One of the things I love, Prof. Khadebe in the back, failure is not something in his vocabulary. And there was something we're interviewing and Dr. Martin Kaskas, and he said something quite profound. And he said failure simply means first attempt in learning. So once you change your perspective about failure, failure doesn't become a hindrance anymore. I was listening to Elon Musk. Elon Musk said, I'm paraphrasing, he said, when they were launching, you know that the first 3 spaceships they exploded in full view. But he kept going. Today he's the richest man in the world. So his perspective about failure is that failure will happen, might happen, but it just means I've taken another step forward. There are things that you learned in your first failure that now you won't repeat in your second venture. I get it. So no particular school fees. And it would be a shame if you pay school fees and then quit the school. There's something, Jack Welch, which I also learned from Tata Khadeb. You know Jack Welch, you know Jack Welch, he was the rock star of CEOs. He led General Electric to heights they never thought they could get to. But when he was a junior engineer, he blew up a factory at General Electric. A whole factory, blew it up. But when he went to his leader, the big boss, I got GE, the leader said, no, but we've already paid the school fees. Why must I fire you? But through that failure, he ended up becoming the CEO. So change your perspective about failure. Failure is something, it's no particular school fees. First attempt in learning. Now there are things that you know that will help you get to a further distance. You may fail there, but now you've got this failure and that failure, which they'll allow you to go even further until you reach the place of success. So that's one thing. Secondly, there's a quote that says, people who are rocking the boat, it simply means they're not sailing the boat. And a lot of critics are simply armchair critics. They're one of the, I remember I went to a Pirates game long ago, Badlala, Limpopo, and I'm a big Pirates fan, and they were playing against Ria Stars. And there was this guy, he had a bit too much to drink, and there was Jerris Kosana on the field, and he was swearing at Jerris Kosana. I'm a rower. But that guy is simply a spectator. Jerris Kosana is on the field. And a lot of the critics in life are people who are on the spectator seat. And they're hailing insults, but there is no trophy they're going to lift. So if you are getting critics, it's a good thing. It means you're on the field. And when you're in the field, you're going to score and you're going to lift the trophy. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you. I think that. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you very much, Confidence.
Thank you, ma'am.
For me, this was more like spirit-filled session.
Wow, thank you.
And my light bulb moments when you were speaking was actually when you say the purpose for a leader is to create more leaders.
Yes, ma'am.
It actually reminded me of a book that I read, which with the title "Leader with No Title."
Yes.
Yes. So, if you are a good leader, and if you are to create more leaders, you actually lessen the burden for yourself.
Yes, 100%.
If you impart those skills to the downliners, you are only lessening the burden for yourself.
100%.
If it's an organization, what you're actually doing is you are increasing profitability
Yeah,
in the company.
100%.
Because everybody will be working at their maximum and they will be saying that we are leaders.
yes, sir.
They don't wait for somebody to look at them or to push them.
Yeah.
But we are saying that we are working for the good of the company because you have actually shown that you can impart that leadership skills in them, number one, and also you activate that trait of leadership that is within them.
Yeah.
You activate it. And
Yeah.
when you activate it, then everybody is just like,
100%. And couldn't have put it better. You reminded me of a quote. It says, a group of sheep led by a lion will always overcome a group of lions led by a sheep, which speaks of leadership. But the best scenario is when a group of lions is led by a lion. So as a leader, you are meant to turn the sheep that are following you into lions, so that when you go hunting, you have a better chance of success. Yeah, but I love what you said. Thank you so much. I think that's everybody satisfied. Lisetis, ne? Okay, one more. Final one. I see we're running out of time. Just a final one.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, sir.
Yes, Confidence. I just want you to understand the good approach. Say, for example, there's this suppressive leader. And now that I'm empowered by the MMI in leadership, how should I approach the because I really need to assist the guy? Should I go to him and say that, man, bro, you really need to develop yourself? How can I approach such a situation?
So the leader is suppressive. I find if you go to somebody like that and say you need to develop yourself, they'll become even more suppressive. I think with somebody like that, you should always let your results speak for themselves. I think you know, it's hard enough changing yourself than trying to change somebody else. And there's a Bible quote I love. It says, a soft answer softens the other person's heart as well. So the best approach to that type of person is to be excellent and not be aggressive, because they are aggressive by nature. So when you meet the aggression with more aggression, there's an explosion. But when by being excellent in what you do and you know, giving your best in all things, you'll find that their heart will also start softening. Because it's hard, you know, if as suppressive as I am, ne? If you are not demano, but oh, soft, and they keep doing what they're made to do, are going over and above. At some point, my heart will also be softened. But don't focus so much on them. Focus on where now or now, how are you delivering? And don't give them an excuse also to say, so focus less on them and more on what you're supposed to deliver, and deliver it to the level of excellence. And you know, those things, it sees that you're sowing, and eventually they'll bear fruit. Don't go to them and say you need to develop yourself. I think that's everything. Final.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying because I was listening to Maximum Pro talking to pastors coming, members of churches coming to Bahamas for conference.
Yes, sir.
And they had the same question. We are equipped and our pastors, they are not. How do we then approach it so that it doesn't come out as if we want to take their space? And he says the best thing is to buy the material. If I know that my pastor is lacking in leadership, buy the book as a present. Pastor is a present.
That's a good solution.
Leave it there.
That's wisdom.
And see what will happen in few years down the line.
That's wisdom. That's wisdom. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I want to honor Prof. Khadebe. You know, where there is no vision, there is where the people perish. But also where there is no visionary, the people perish. So as the visionary, can we just give him a round of applause and honor him? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers.
We can do better than that.